Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Carol Bush. I am the ExperiencePlus Bicycle Tours Marketing Manager. We are excited to have you joining us today to talk all about self-guided tours. We have three ExperiencePlus staff with us today. Maria Elena, the co-owner, we'll talk with you soon. Sara Letterelli is joining us from Italy. She is our tour reservations and customer service individual. And then Josh Hill is here in the US office as our sales and travel specialist. I just want to give you a quick look at what today's program is going to entail. Emmy will talk with you about ExperiencePlus and the different bicycle tour styles that we offer in addition to self-guided, and then she'll go more specifically into what the self-guided tour style is all about. Sara will then jump in to tell us all about the amazing places that we do go on self-guided bicycle tours in Italy. And then Josh is going to join Sara for a conversation about what you want to be thinking about in terms of how a day on a bicycle tour works and all those logistical pieces about how you book a tour and whatnot. And then we'll have time for a Q&A. And I just wanted to mention, just as a very strange aside, it is incredibly windy here in Colorado today where we are, and we did have some warnings that it's possible that our electricity might get pulled on us just to protect for cases of fire. So if something just goes dark all of a sudden, that's because, or somebody goes dark, it's because their power has gone out. But hopefully they'll be able to join us back again soon. So Emmy, with that, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Carol. I am excited to talk to all of you here. I am in Colorado as well in the Fort Collins office, and I'm here to tell those of you who may or may not know much about ExperiencePlus. I see some familiar names right now in the folks who are currently online, so some of you know us quite well. But in case there are those who don't, we are a family-run business. My parents started this company in 1972, and now my sister and I run the company. This is the 1972 original photo of the first bicycle tour from Pisa to Forlì, my mother's hometown, and she is Italian, which is why our roots run deep in Italy. We now, 50 plus years later, 54 years later, run 170 tours in over 25 countries. They are mostly guided tours, but we can talk a little bit about how self-guided has been part of our fabric for a long time. And we are set up as two separate companies. We have a company in the US and we actually have a company in Europe as well, in Faenza, Italy, which is near my mother's hometown. And that is our operational base for our self-guided tour. And so there's a lot more to hear about us and our history, but we don't have time for all of that today. I encourage you, for those of you who don't know us, to go on our website and go into the About Us. And my parents' story is always very heartwarming for most people. And it is the foundation that kind of drives us today. And I'm honored to continue that tradition. Also, on the note about the wind, I am in the office here, although my background doesn't look like it. And the fire alarm went off recently because I think some dust got into it just about 15 minutes before. So if I all of a sudden have to cut myself off because there's a blaring fire alarm, I apologize. So a little bit about our trips. EP started as a guided tour company. That photo you saw in 1972, my parents were the guides. And right now we have 5 tour styles. 4 of them are fully guided. These are the guided tour styles we have. Our classic tours, which are the trips that are the foundation and kind of the original design and how we ran our trips from early on, or how they have evolved. They are generally point to point, 7 to 12 day tours, guided throughout Europe and some in Chile and Argentina as well. Mostly on pavement, and they have 2 to 3 tour leaders on tour. And then we have our bike and boat, which is very similar to our classic tours, but for those, a large part of the tour, usually the first week, is on a boat. So you actually don't have to pack up every day, but you are still moving most days. And then some of the bike and boats have an extended trip, extra 3 or 4 days that's land-based. We have our expedition tours, which started just about 20 years ago. And on those tours, we do more transcontinental style tours with longer days, 50 plus mile days every day with a few rest days here and there. And so they're really meant to be more epic transcontinental crossing countries and continents. And we have our gravel explorer tours that we inaugurated about 5 or 6 years ago, and those are tours that are more off pavement. They don't use our arrows for navigation like our classic bike and boat and expedition tours do. And they tend to be also a little bit shorter, 7 or 8 days. And they're throughout Europe right now, where we have a few throughout Europe right now, and haven't expanded into any other continents yet. But the main point on those is that they tend to be more off pavement. So those are all of our guided tour styles. But today we are here to talk about our self-guided tours. So self-guided tours have actually been part of the ExperiencePlus history because we started them in 1990 or 91. And they were tours that are actually still very similar to the way they're run today in 1990s. The concept of a self-guided tour is a pre-planned trip where the routes are provided, your hotels are booked, your bike is provided, and activities are optional. Now, in the 90s, we did not navigate by GPS. We navigated by road books, step-by-step directions. Some of you who've been doing bike touring for a while might recall those. You had an entire pamphlet and a map, of course, and you would, every mile or 2 miles, whenever you had to, or kilometers, you'd have to turn. It would say, turn left at the red barn. And so we ran trips for a number of years like that in Italy. And we loved the ability and way that a self-guided tours allows more people to get out on trips. But then we actually realized that it's really hard. The technology wasn't there, let me put it that way, to make these trips run as smooth as they could. Well, fast forward a number of years, and there's great ways to have this happen. And so we were really excited. In 2023, we re-included self-guided tours on the ExperiencePlus website. Now, a small secret is our Italian company, who has its own website, was actually running these same self-guided tours already for a number of years. But the reason it took us a long time to put them on the ExperiencePlus website is, one, the quality and standards that I think our customers expect from the ExperiencePlus brand needed to be up to snuff. And because of that, and a lot of that is because of how self-guided tours are run. Self-guided tours have to be very localized. They need to have a strong local partner because you have no tour leaders, no vans. The organization has to be very strong. And of course, we trust our office in Italy. And so we realized, they probably were doing a pretty good job. So we wanted to help bring more people to the trips that we had designed in Italy as they were adding more to their own portfolio. So that's how we ended up adding ExperiencePlus. The ExperiencePlus website added more tours to its portfolio in the form of a self-guided tour style. So let's talk specifically about what a self-guided tour is. And if you have any questions, please add them in the chat. We will also have a specific Q&A time later, but if you want, you can write them down if something comes up. So the idea of a self-guided tour is that it is pre-planned already, like any of our other guided tours. But you don't have any tour leaders and van support. The special thing about the self-guided tour is that you get to pick your date. There are some conditions of certain itineraries need to run on certain days, whether it's because of the activities or logistics. And of course, it is not a group tip tour, so you get to pick your traveling companions if you would like to invite people along. All of our prices are priced in double occupancy, so we do recommend coming with at least 2 of you. Actually, hopefully more, because in my opinion, more the merrier. But there's a great amount of flexibility on a self-guided tour, and that's one of the beauties. That's one of the reasons people really like it. Not only can you select your own start date, but the pace of the day is very, very flexible. You leave when you want. I mean, there is a checkout time and breakfast at the hotel, but during the day, it is completely your day to manage. And you arrive at the hotel and your luggage is there because it has been transferred. There are some time parameters, luggage does need to be down at a certain time because our transfers need to pick it up and expect to find it. And then it arrives at your next destination at a certain time. So all of that is spelled out. There's also lots of customization options other than just picking your dates. On some of our trips, you can also have multiple ride options as a default, Or if you're looking at the ride and you're saying, well, I would really like longer rides, we may already have longer rides planned that we can add to the GPS tracks that we give you. And sticking to the spirit of really our brand promise, which is that we think bicycling is the best best way to see the world, because you can really connect with a place and you can leave your cares behind. We do still plan all of the important pieces, which is the hotels and the bike. Your bicycle is provided to you and your routes. You can also add activities on a number of these trips. There are optional add-ons that you can do in the booking process. And one of the other things that we love about our self-guided tours, and one of the reasons we like to bring them up, is that they are actually more affordable. It's no secret, I think, that staff obviously is one of the biggest, as it should be, expenses on a trip. And so when you take away the tour leaders, there are ways to make it more affordable. And so that allows for some more accessibility, I think, for these types of trips. On the current portfolio of trips that we have on our website, we offer the same tours and the same bikes that we offer on our guided tours, because it is coming from the same fleet that we manage for all of our European trips. So it is the same suite of muscle bikes on the left, our road bikes, our hybrid bikes, and our step-through hybrid frames. And then the e-bikes that we have is our road e-bikes and our hybrid e-bikes that we have, which is the flat top bar e-bike as well. We also do have tandems available. And of course, part of the equipment that we provide is similar to what we provide on a guided tour with the rear racks. I think you probably load up on your rear rack pack a little bit more than maybe on one of our guided tours, because it is your day pack for the whole day. But there we do have water bottle cages, which we will provide one water bottle, and it has the same features as all of the bikes we would normally provide. In addition, we are transitioning away from the Garmin GPSs to a type of phone where you can navigate with your ride with GPS, because we found that that's more usable. And so we are actually providing rugged phones, what we call our rugged phone, which is a simplified non-SIM activated device that has the ride with GPS experience loaded on it, and you actually use that application to navigate. You can also use your Garmin's as well, and download tracks if you want to bring your own Garmin. All right, that was a very brief introduction to the high-level basics. Some things to consider as you're thinking about whether a self-guided tour is right for you. It is definitely for the person who is excited about traveling independently, not afraid to ask for directions. We won't lie, you probably and hopefully will get lost, because that means you'll interact and probably have an adventure. We want you to be comfortable with digital navigation and have basic mechanic skills so that you can change a flat tire. And of course, most importantly, comfortable not having a support vehicle following you, because that is the independent part of this. That is not what is provided in this trip. Always as a contrast to this tour is maybe not right for you if you are a little bit worried about getting lost, because you might get lost and are uncomfortable with that feeling. And if you prefer to have a tour leader and support band, that's why we know there's lots of people out there who would prefer to have support, which is why the majority of our portfolio is guided. And if you are looking for that group experience, that's not necessarily what this trip is going to have. And then finally, self-guided tours by default don't have many additional inclusions in terms of cultural activities and meals. Those are more on your own. So you have to go and decide and plan. Some people see it as a burden. Some people see it as something that they would like to do. So you need to know where you land. Okay, so that was my very high level. Now I'm going to have Sara discuss the destinations before they talk a little bit more about the logistics. So the tours that we have available in our Italian portfolio. And Sara, I'll let you take control.
Okay, thank you, Emmy. So it looks like we are going to start to talk about our very own Emilia-Romagna. So this is the region where our Italian headquarters are located, specifically in the town of Faenza. And when I was thinking about how to talk about Emilia-Romagna, the word that mostly describes it for me is variety. So that is both in terms of like geography. So in the region, you can see the region is here, more or less, right? And so you have a northern part that is quite flat. You have an eastern part that is on the sea, the Adriatic Sea. And then you have a southern part that is actually includes the Apennines, right? So even for cycling, there is quite a bit of variety where you have more flat and easy ride on the Emilia part of the region, and some more rolling hills on the Romagna part of the region. And you may wonder why I'm talking about two areas of the same region and giving them the two separate names, and that is because it is very important for us to distinguish between the two. We in Italy appear to have a thing for rivalries, right? So it starts with, at a broader level, north versus south of Italy, and then you want to be super proud of your own region, so it's between the regions, and then within the regions, it's rivalries between the different cities. This division or rivalry is also reflected in the fact that each region and each town has their own dialects. So Italy was not a unified country until something like 160 years ago. And because of that, they all had different languages. And I'm not talking about accents, like it could be a southern accent from the US, for example, like proper languages. If I speak my dialect to a person from Puglia, they would not understand me, and vice versa. So that's quite interesting. But going back to all the variety of the Emilia-Romagna region, another aspect is the fact that you have many things that, you have one interest in art, and you can find art. You can go to Ravenna, here in the Romagna area, and find the mosaics. You can go to Bologna and find the porticos. Both of these things are part of the UNESCO heritage list. You can see them here in the picture, the mosaics of Ravenna and the porticos of Bologna. Or you can go to Faenza, our very own headquarters, right? And Faenza is one of the three Italian cities that are best known for ceramics. In Faenza, we also have, in fact, an international ceramics museum. But in the same region where art is so important, you also have the so-called Motor Valley. And that is an area between Bologna and Modena. Again, on the map, that would be Bologna and Modena. And it's called the Motor Valley because it's where Ferrari, Ducati, Lamborghini, and other very, very well-known brands have their headquarters and production facilities. So even though we love cycling and bikes, there are some of our customers who still like to take a little detour to go and see the Museum Ferrari in Maranello. One other thing that we are very, very proud of is our food. So you may have heard of some of these products, I'm pretty sure, because these are famous worldwide. And I'm talking about the Parmesan cheese. I'm talking about the Parma ham or prosciutto di Parma, and then the balsamic vinegar. Now, this is not exactly the form that you see of balsamic vinegar in the supermarket, but this is where it's produced in these barrels. And these are not all of them. We also have lasagna, we have bolognese sauce, we have mortadella. We are very proud of that, right? And so I would say that that's all for this part, but then I'll go more in depth about the 3 tours that we offer here that are 2 separate trips and then 1 that combines them as a grand tour. So we have the Romagna trip. That is a 7-day tour that starts in Ravenna. Ravenna is here. And then it goes to Faenza all the way to Bologna. Bologna is kind of the town that divides Romagna and Emilia. And then from Bologna, if you go north west, you get to Parma, and that will be the itinerary of the Taste of Italy 8-day tour. if you want to cycle a bit longer and combine the two itineraries and not miss anything, you can book the Grand Cycling Emilia-Romagna, a 13-day trip that goes all the way from Ravenna to Parma. Now, the next region we're talking about is the Dolomites. And when I think of the Dolomites, and because I often go there like 2, 3, 4 times a year to deliver tours, actually, because I'm also a deliverer for self-guided tours, the first thing that I think of is the incredible landscapes that they have there. It's really stunning. And I'm going to show you a few pictures here on the next slide. So some of them are from the Dolomites trip that goes from Cortina to Bolzano. We'll get to that a bit later. Like the Tre Cime di Lavaredo, for example, and also Braies Lake is on the same tour. And then I also selected this picture because I think it's quite peculiar of the Resia Lake. And the peculiarity here is given obviously by the fact that there is a bell tower coming out of a lake. And this is due to the fact that in the 1950s, the community there decided to submerge a couple of towns to create an artificial lake. So this is not something that you would see every day. And I think that these views really make the two Dolomites trips quite unique. One thing that is very much appreciated by customers about these tours is the fact that the basic level of the tour in terms of cycling difficulties is easy on the Alpine Valley strip and easy to moderate on the Dolomites strip. But at the same time, by being so close to so many mountain peaks, it's really easy to make it a tour suitable for everybody with customization. So what I mean by that is that if you have a group of 8 and 4 of them are beginners and 4 of them are more hardcore cyclists, they can decide to take different routes for the day, and the beginners can go on the easy routes and the rest of the group can have customized tracks to suit their willingness to ride the mountain peaks. Something that makes this region unique is also the German-Austrian influence, because this area was connected to Italy, I think about a century ago. And so this is reflected both in the language, because people who live here speak German as their first language, and they also speak Italian, but also in the architecture. So you would find castles and fortresses, and also in the cuisine, because some of these typical places of this area that's called South Tyrol are the Canederli, the apple strudel, and the speck. It's like a smoked ham, and these have an influence from the northern neighboring Austria. So I wanted to show you here on the map this area, apart from here, Cortina, so this area would be South Tyrol. So almost the entire Dolomites trip would run in the South Tyrol part of the region. Now we have 2 tours that we run here, plus a grand tour, just like in the Emilia-Romagna. The 2 separate tours are the Alpine valleys and the Dolomites, the majestic Dolomites. So going back to the map, I wanted to show you this from Silandro all the way down here to Valeggio sul Mincio. This is Lake Garda. So right south of Lake Garda is the Alpine Valley strip. This is an easy tour that we also offer to families sometimes. And this one here, starting in Cortina and going all the way to the red star that is Bolzano, is the Dolomites trip. Now, the Grand Tour of Emilia-Romagna that we just saw before was connecting the 2 tours completely. In this case, the Grand Tour goes from Cortina to Valeggio, and these 2 towns are not included in the trip, but still this makes for a 12-day tour. So there is a lot of beautiful views to be seen in those 12 days. Next up, we have Tuscany, which I believe is probably the most famous Italian region among foreigners, probably. And when you think of Tuscany, I would imagine that you think of, once again, landscapes, although very different from the ones that we just saw for the Dolomites trips, as well as wine. So we have a slide here that for me sort of summarizes what I just said. I selected this one because this is a picture from the Orcia Valley. And this is a very typical cypresses driveway. And other beautiful landscapes that you can see here have also been taken for the movie Gladiator. So some scenes were shot in this area. And then about the wine, there are two of them that I wanted to mention. One is the Brunello di Montalcino. Montalcino is a town in the southern Tuscany trip. And the Brunello is their typical product. And the thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that here you can actually, in the town of Montalcino, where the tour stops for 2 nights, you can actually taste the Brunello in a winery that is located inside the fortress, inside the town fortress. So that is quite unique. The second thing, and the reason why you can find all these logos here in this picture, and you may be wondering why, is the Chianti Classico wine. And I just wanted to give you this piece of information that if you take the Southern Tuscany trip, that you can go back home and tell this little story to your friends, because it's fun. The symbol of the Chianti Classico, as you can see here, is the black rooster. This was chosen because of a legend, according to which in medieval times, around the end of the 14th century, there was a dispute between Siena and Florence to decide where the border was. And the way to decide it was 2 knights selected by the 2 towns would ride their horse, and wherever they met, that would be the border between the 2 towns, right? So obviously each of the 2 knights wanted to ride their horse farther away. And strategy for Florence, which was the winning one, was to choose a black rooster. And the black rooster sang earlier in the morning, allowing the knight to start riding the horse earlier and to have Florence gaining more territory thanks to that strategy. Now back to the itineraries. We have 2 trips that run in this region. One is the Southern Tuscany tour, and this is where the Orcia Valley that I mentioned before is located. The other one is actually a mix of 2 regions. One is the Romagna that we saw before, and as a matter of fact, the tour starts in Ravenna. And the other one is Tuscany. So the tour goes from Ravenna through the Apennines. It stops in Florence, so art lovers would have a feast here, and that is also the reason why we stopped for 2 nights in Florence, because there's really a lot to see, many museums, a lot of art. And then from Florence, it goes on to Lucca, passing through Vinci, which is the birthplace of Leonardo da Vinci. And it ends with a loop ride from Lucca to Pisa. You may have heard this name because that is where the Leaning Tower of Pisa is located, and where all of the people taking the pictures like these can be found, right? So these are the 2 trips that we offer in Tuscany, and you can see the overview here. The coast to coast, because it goes from the eastern sea to the western one, the west coast of Tuscany, and the southern Tuscany tour. These are both 2. Well, the southern Tuscany tour is an 8-day trip, and it's particularly appreciated by some customers because it has 3 2-night stays. And the coast-to-coast trip is a 9-day tour. Then we have Umbria. And for me, it feels like we saved the best for last, because this is my favorite tour. I cannot really say that it's my favorite region because I would be betraying my own region, but I really, really love Umbria. And the main reasons for that are the fact that Umbria is full of off the beaten path gem towns. A couple of them are here in this slide, these two pictures. So the top left one is called Civica di Bagnoregio, and we call it the town that is dying. So you can see that it's located on a hilltop, and the reason for this nickname is the fact that actually weather conditions and other elements are eroding the rock on which the town is built. A peculiarity of this town, in addition to the nickname, is the fact that you can only access it on foot through a bridge. And you can actually see this exact view from a viewpoint that is located on the track for that day, which is a loop ride from Orvieto at the end of the Umbria trip. Here at the bottom right corner, you have another picture of a town that I really love that's called Spoleto. And in particular, in the picture, you have a 14th century Roman bridge, which is the tallest ancient bridge in Europe that is still standing. And you can see this just by strolling around Spoleto, you know, and it's quite a view. It's quite a view. One other thing that I love about Umbria, in the long list of things that I love about Umbria, is its landscapes. Once again, sorry to mention it so many times, but it's it's just beautiful places. So Umbria happens to be the neighbor of Tuscany. Let me go back to the map here. So this region here is Tuscany, right? And here is where the Umbria region is located. The Umbria tour is located. This is the Umbria region. And so what happens is that the landscapes of Umbria and Tuscany, and that part of Tuscany, are quite similar, especially when it comes to vineyards and to olive groves. But the thing is that in Umbria, you find less crowds because it's a lesser known region, especially abroad. I wanted to mention also the local products. I said that you can find olive groves, and in fact, olive oil is one of the local products that you can find in Umbria. And on this trip in Bevagna, one of the stops of the tour, you can actually have an olive oil tasting at a local producer. Another product that is famous in Umbria is truffles. So for those who love that, they can have a feast. And then I will mention something that is true for me. I don't know if, I hope that people will experience this as well when they go to Umbria. And it is the fact that I find that the local people are exceptional in that they are authentic and helpful, but not in a over-the-top way, more in like very pragmatic way. And that is something that I truly appreciate of these people. Now, here's the overview of the Umbria tour. Again, an 8-day trip. It starts in Perugia and it ends in beautiful Orvieto with the loop ride that I mentioned before that goes to Civita di Bagnoregio as well as the Bolsena Lake. So that's it from me for the presentation of regions. I'll hand it over to Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I love hearing just like the bits and pieces of some of these beautiful regions. I honestly want to get to so many of them myself too. After we've gone through kind of your thorough explanation of the areas we get to ride, let's dive in a little bit more on those finer points that Emmy kind of touched on a little bit earlier about what makes a self-guided tour unique. And likewise, maybe for those of us that are coming from the EP guided tours, what is going to be different, or likewise, maybe even the same between this type of tour and our guided tours. Um, Thinking about again what our typical day may look like, what happens when something maybe doesn't quite go right, as well as those customization options and how we might be able to add those in. And finally, how is booking a self-guided tour a little bit different than our guided tour options? I think first things first, though, of what kind of makes a guided tour or self-guided tour unique in getting started. For those of us that are used to those guided tours of having a large group coming together, tour leaders helping fit bikes, as well as kind of welcome dinners and things along those lines. How does a self-guided tour get started with getting a bike fitted and getting ready to head out on your own independently?
Yeah, so people still meet our staff at the beginning of the trip, and normally at the starting hotel. This happens either in the afternoon of day one or in the morning of day two. And this is agreed upon well in advance with all of the participants. And the meeting with our staff is two parts. The first part is the bike fitting. So small adjustments like the handlebar reach or the type of saddle or the saddle height. And the second part is sitting down with a glass of wine and just discussing some of the logistics of the tour, sort of like what we are about to do, really. Obviously, during the bike fitting, people are given enough time to test the bike because obviously our staff is there. So should there be anything that they want to adjust or that doesn't look quite right, our staff is there to set the bike as well as possible for the trip.
Fantastic. It sounds really very similar to our guided tours. Just making sure you're as ready as you can be. Something that always kind of stands out to me with the self-guided side of things is that you are handling your own luggage. How does checking in and out, or how does one go from hotel to hotel, as opposed to bringing our luggage down for a tour leader to load up into a van?
Yeah, so Emmy touched on this subject just briefly before mentioning that there is a time frame. So what happens is that people are asked to bring down their luggage at the reception by 9:30 a.m. and then they should expect it to the next hotel by 3 p.m. So 3 p.m. would be the latest, but sometimes transfers just happen first thing in the morning for our drivers. It's like the first service that they take care of. And so the luggage most of the time is waiting for customers at the next hotel. It could either be near the reception in their storage room. And sometimes, if the staff is nice enough, they will even bring it up to the room. And that is for checking in. And then when people are checking out, they should, take care of any pending charges like the city tax or if they use anything from the minibar, right? Mm-hmm. And, customers use the deposits of the hotels to store the bikes during the night. So as soon as they arrive, they will introduce themselves with their last name and saying that they're part of the bike tour. The reception will show them where the bike deposit is, and then in the morning after, they can take off from there. Now, the beauty of self-guided trips is the independence also of stopping whenever and wherever you like and for how long you like, go at your own pace. Mm-hmm. And the only limitation to that is if you have a booked visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of mentioned those a little bit earlier, but maybe a little bit more in detail. What are some of these things that you can add on to your own self-guided tour to make it, I always feel like these are kind of a mini private custom tour, even though they are off of an itinerary still.
Mm-hmm. So I think both I and Maria Elena mentioned the fact that you can somewhat customize the tracks. So you can ask for harder rides or for extra rides. And in most cases, that is easy to add. Another thing that can be customized is the optional extra activities, what you call here the add-ons. For example, the beautiful picture that I have here in my background. Let me go. Let me show you. So this is the town in Romagna, very close to our headquarters, and it's called Brisighella. In Brisighella, for example, you can add an olive oil tasting, just as you can add it in Umbria. Or you can add a cooking class in Faenza or in Bologna, many other places. You can add a guided walking tour of Florence or Siena. So there is a variety of things that you can add to your tour, and those are listed on each tour webpage for that specific itinerary. And finally, another thing that you can personalize is the accommodations. So we will offer a few options. We have standard hotels that we use all the time. We try to select them so that they are central, they have a bike deposit. Normally, we try to use family-run places or boutique hotels, something that has, some character and not part of a chain, right? And in some cases, we have customers that, prefer to have upgrades or have a personal preference for being maybe in the countryside in an agriturismo. And so in that case, we try to work together to find the best fit for them.
Fantastic. Just really kind of adds more nuance to what you can have on your own experience.
Yep.
And I think kind of finally, the things that always come to mind, unfortunately, are what happens when things go wrong, especially with self-guided tours. You're out there on your own, maybe in a country that you don't speak the language of or familiar with. So what do we do as EP to make sure that you're not necessarily all by yourself when you're out on a self-guided tour?
Yeah, so this is a question that comes up all the time during the tour briefing that we have at the beginning of the tour. And we go over all of these things with customers. Our deliverer, our staff does. So we have created a list here of the most common things that could happen or that people ask us about, right? So obviously, being on a bike and being without a tour leader or a mechanic, you think of what happens if I have a mechanical issue with my bike. There are a number of things that can happen to solve that problem. First of all, you are given a contact detail for our support number that is available every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we have discovered that in many cases, people can actually video call us on WhatsApp. And we would take the telephone to our mechanics and they could see the problem and sort of navigate the customer to solve it if it was something that could be done that way. But if that is not possible, in the Ride with GPS experience, customers would find a list of bike mechanics that are located either in the towns where they stop or even along the ride. And if they give us a call, we can always find another mechanic on the spot, because obviously we cannot list all of them for all the towns that they go through, but we can, we can always do something on the spot. A second thing that I always mention during the briefings is about hotel or restaurant reservations, because normally meals are not included, but it can be an add-on. And so people sometimes panic for a second because the hotel receptionist tells them, oh, I don't have a reservation under that name. Okay, no panic. First of all, give us a call. Secondly, the most likely thing happening is that there is somebody new at the reception and they put my last name as the name of the reservation instead of the customer's. So really, it is something that can be solved over the phone in 30 seconds. And we really encourage people to give us a call for whatever, even small thing that they might have. And then there is a thing, the third thing here on the list is roadworks. And especially with the good weather, we say in Italian that they come up as mushrooms. That is an expression that we have in Italian. I don't think that you have it in English, meaning that construction sites, they just come out frequently during the good season, right? So the summer, when the tours also happen to run. And so you get to the bike to a point where there is a stop. You cannot keep going, right? And so the easy way would be to take a look on your phone to find a detour on your own. In some cases, actually, the detour is well signed, right? So there are yellow signs that say detour, and you can just follow that. But if that's not the case, again, the answer is always call us. Because our routing manager that knows really every inch of Italy, I don't know how he does it, he can find an alternative for you very quickly. And the beauty of technology is that he can send the update to the Ride with GPS. And if people download the update, it will synchronize and they will have the new track on their phone. Another thing that we are asked often is what happens with if the weather looks really bad, or if I just want to skip the ride for that day because I'm not feeling well, because I'm too tired, for a number of reasons. And there are two main options. One is public transportation, and that is the easiest and the cheapest solution to that problem. And the second option is to book a private transfer. Obviously, if you do it on the spot, you need to see if there is availability, but it is a service that we can provide. Again, you call us and I'm not feeling too well. We get in touch with our suppliers and we try to find a solution for you. Last but not least, luggage transfers. So there is a number of things that can happen, starting from the very basic reason that the driver forgets of having booked that service for that day. Again, there is no need to panic because the luggage is not lost. It's simply back at the starting hotel. It's not ideal, obviously. We try to make sure that our drivers are informed of this well in advance, and then we send a reminder, etc. If something goes wrong and you don't find the luggage at the next hotel, guess what? You give us a call and we find a solution for you in the least amount of time possible.
Fantastic. I mean, again, even for the fact that you are self-guided, there's not tour leaders, it still feels like that level of support is just kind of omnipresent, of helps a phone call away. And I think part of what makes our self-guided tours so strong and robust is that this is in many ways our backyard, that Michele and Elaine and our team is so ingrained in the areas that it is that back of hand of we know exactly where we're going, or more so where you're going on a self-guided tour. But I guess to get people going, though, how do we actually get booked onto a self-guided tour, since we don't have set tour dates and having that customization option of picking your own date? How do you get started on that?
So basically, you would get to the tour webpage and submit a request a date form or even a contact us form, and then our team will go from there, will guide you from there. What happens is that unlike the guided trips, each self-guided tour, we check the hotel availability on a request basis, right? So for each date, we would contact all of the hotels of that specific itinerary for that specific date. And when we get all of the replies from the hotels, we can then send a reservation form link to the customers. I normally tell people that from the moment people tell me, okay, Sara, please check availability for this type of room on this tour on this start date. Normally it takes me 2 working days maximum to get back to them with a reservation form, where I also sort of recap the list of hotels that we're including, the price and what it includes, and terms and conditions, whatever they need to, all of the information that they need to proceed with the booking. And from the moment I send the reservation link, I normally tell people that a few days is okay, to take a few days to make the to go on to proceed with the reservation before those rooms that I have found maybe are not available anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, again, it sounds relatively seamless, and I always love the customization side of it, where we're able to be so flexible. I think kind of with that though, we're ready for some general questions that are beyond what I already had. Um, I think we already have a few here in the chat. Emmy, if you want to pop over, apologies, we're probably flipping to and from a little bit on our side. I think we have a few outages happening, as we mentioned, with the wind, maybe some evacuations based on the way people off camera are looking at me right now.
Yes, no, all is fine here. We do, unfortunately, it seems to have a fire north of Fort Collins, and some folks are being affected, but the office is fine. No, one question that there was a couple questions, Sara, that I can start with. One was, can you explain a little bit more about the hotel tax, city tax, since that's not a concept that we have, in that everyone is familiar with.
Yeah. So these taxes were introduced, I don't know, a few years ago, like
10 years,
maybe even maybe 15 or something like that. And it's basically the city, so the municipality, that decided that each hotel needs to collect, it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 euros per person per night. And that doesn't go to the hotel, it goes to the municipality, again, to the city, and it finances improvements to, road conditions and things like that. So it needs to be paid at the time of checkout, normally cash.
How much is it?
Again, it's normally between 1 and 5 euros in some places, and
I think Florence, it's like 6 or 7 now.
yes. And last year, because of the Jubilee, everywhere they got bumped up. They said, "Oh, next year we'll go back to normal." I haven't really checked, but I remember even in Bologna they went up a little bit. It should be back to normal now, because last year was a special year.
Yeah, and the cash is actually something, most of them are between 1 and 2 euros. So having those 1 and 2 euro coins does help. Yeah. It is a true pass-through tax that hotels ask guests to pay for. And on a guided tours, we're paying for. And so the other question was on the Dolomites tour, and somebody who had to hop off was specifically asking for this, and maybe you can just expand on how we do the extra rides. She was wondering, are there like key big pass names that we can run, like that we can do, like is the Falzarego available, is Passo Sella available on the itineraries that we have? Do you know off the top of your head, Sara? We can also email directly. She left her email.
Oh yeah, I'll be happy to email her after consulting with Michele. Perfect. But for sure, I remember Michele customizing a tour for a few Australians recently, because they wanted to include the Stelvio.
Yeah, some of the very famous passes. Yeah. So it is many of the very famous passes, the Sella Ronda and the Falzarego, are available, I think, on that particular trip.
Yeah, in some cases it might be a bit of a more difficult customization than just altering one day's ride. So we need to discuss that, but those are all rides that we know very well.
And also note, if we do extra routes and rides or add days, there is a fee added to the customization planning at that point. And Sara can kindly tell you what that is. If somebody starts to really design new tours, then it becomes a different kind of option. Yeah. And one other question is, will there be other people on the same dates? Because do people sometimes combine on dates, and how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. The answer is yes. There could be other people on the same tour on the same date, and there are moments that you will have in common, but I mean, moments plural is really not correct. There is one moment that you have in common, and that is the meeting with our staff. So the bike fitting and the tour briefing will happen all together. But the rest of the trip, you're completely independent. Obviously, there are quite a few people that just make friends with the other customers that are on tour on the same dates. But again, it doesn't really become a group tour. This still stays an independent, self-guided trip. You just happen to be maybe in the same hotels, not even necessarily. But I mean, you will probably see each other along the ride, but the meeting with our staff, maybe the Parmesan cheese and balsamic vinegar visits will happen at the same time, but that's it. The rest is all on your own.
Great. So if there's no other questions, on our slide, we had a "Do you know who this is?" quiz question, because we have also done a self-guided tour, and I think Eric did the Dolomites, right, Sara? I can't.
Or the Alpine valleys.
Or the Alpine valleys. Well,
Yeah.
This was, one fabulous thing that we always like to talk about is the accessibility, and on a tandem. Eric Weinmeier, who was, I think he is the climber who climbed Everest blind. He also does bike tours. He is usually on a tandem, and his partner was riding out front. And so we were really excited he joined us, and we have some great footage and videos from his experience if you want to see how the Alpine valleys was under his view a couple years ago. I think he did that in 2023. All right, so moving on, because we're getting to the top of the hour here. For those of you who may not be on our email list, this is the best way to receive news from us about future webinars. We hope you found this informative. And we will be sending the recording out. We had about quite a few people registered, and we often find that they don't show up, but they like to see it afterwards. So we'll be emailing this to everyone who registered. If you have any questions, please send us a message. One last question just rolled in, which is, you returned the bike at the last hotel. Correct. You leave the bike at the last hotel, and then we come and pick it up. You often do not meet one of our representatives then, but that is all organized at the very end. And all hotels have easy storage places for your bikes. That's usually described in your information, or their hotels expect where to put your bikes, and help you out with that. So yes, and great. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope, if you are in Colorado, I know a number of you are, that you're holding onto your hats and your trampolines and your garbage bins, and we'll be going to check the same here. I think when we're done right now. It really picked up in the last hour right now. All right, well, thank you, everyone. We'll keep this up for a second, and feel free to leave any more comments that you would like in the chat.